So today I'm going to do a reaction and a discussion on two videos done by Live Abuse Free. And they're really interesting. They're really going deep into the psychology of Andrew Tate. So she explains it really well. I'm going to reiterate what she says that I find really interesting and then also add some more onto it. So here we have Andrew Tate saying he had a great dad and he turned out fantastic. In fact, he's one of the greatest men alive. And she points out that he has a God complex, that he's abandoned by his father. So she's going to support that. His father saw him once a month. His dad was traveling a lot in chess competitions. Andrew talks about his father being a chess grandmaster, and he was cheating on her with lots of women. He thought it was more important to be with all these different women than to commit to his wife and family, and he didn't spend much time with them. He decided his dad was a hero, and all dads should be like that. So here he's talking about how every time his dad was home, it was an impactful time. So we can already see that Andrew's dad had a very self-centered lifestyle that focused around him and what he wanted. And then we also saw that Andrew said it was very impactful when he was around. And in my mind, that sets off flashing red lights. Impactful. What I think about is emotional dysregulation. It sounds like when his father showed up, he caused a lot of stress, chaos, emotional dysregulation. We're going to look more at this as the video goes on. So she talks about how it's normal for a child to blame themselves for how their parents are behaving. They can see their parents in the right as far as possible because they're completely at the mercy of their parents when they're children. So if their parents are selfish and don't really care, then that's a terrifying situation for the child because they're completely at the mercy of people who shouldn't be trusted. So Andrew talked about how his mom was subservient to his dad. So Andrew's getting his model of how relationships work from someone who is narcissistic, likely abusive, and someone who is attracted to that, who likely has their own trauma. And she says here that he was diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. Andrew's dad was. Andrew Tate also admitted that his dad hit him. Yeah, so there's the abuse. So according to Andrew, it's a great thing that his dad hit him and that he was scared of his father. He remembered every single second spent with his father because he had to be on high alert. So we can see that his father never deemed Andrew worthy of his time to spend time with him. It's likely that he didn't get validation from his father as a child. Andrew was not a priority in his life, and the mind does something really interesting with this. It says, if I can get enough external success and achievement, then maybe I will be important enough for my dad to pay attention to me. It's not true, but it's very seductive, and that begins the futile pursuit of chasing external validation. If you aren't validated of your worth as a child just for existing, it can be difficult for you to believe that you have intrinsic value. Seeking validation through achievement is a way that someone can stave off the hurt that they felt as a child, that they weren't valuable enough to be worthy of a caregiver or a parent's time. The unconscious paradigm of if I do that, then they will love me is a coping mechanism to avoid processing that emotional hurt. We see Andrew having an arrested development. He doesn't have a fully formed, matured psyche. He has a childhood wound of not receiving love, care, and attention from his father, and instead of healing that, he turns around and immortalizes his father as a hero. And we see that in Andrew's life, he attempts to emulate his father in an unconscious effort to gain that love and approval that he never got as a child. And maybe Andrew doesn't have the competence to achieve that success in a legal, moral, and ethical way, so he has to use illegal and immoral methods to do that. But we can see how strong that unconscious desire to win over that approval is, that it would drive him to do what he's done. We already know that his father is very narcissistic, was even clinically diagnosed, so it's unlikely that he would ever give his son the love that he desires. So this unconscious desire for validation, it creates this unquenchable thirst for achievement, for external validation, because that is the only way from that paradigm or from that perspective that you could potentially receive that validation. And so it creates this quenching desire for more and more and more. And even when you reach those targets or goalposts that the mind says, okay, this is it, this is when I can feel satisfied, it feels more and more deeply unsatisfying. You have to face the truth that this is not going to work, or keep going. Get lost in this continual cycle of needing more and more and more. The issue at the crux of this is the lack of awareness that what is driving this is the unconscious desire for a father's love. So there's this weird thing going on where there's this deeply held belief that he's not worthy of his father's love and that he can achieve that love. This results in grandiose fantasies, and we can see how Andrew has done his absolute best to live out these grandiose fantasies.